Today I'm here to ask the question if the most legendary trainer of all time, Ash Ketchum, could beat the newest Generation 3 Pokemon ROM hack, Parallel Emerald. But what is this game actually about? You get thrown into the Hoenn region, but everything is different. Routes have been changed around, there's characters you've never seen before, gyms are not what they used to be, and now have incredibly hard puzzles that require 200% of your brain capacity to solve. There's new locations that have never been seen before in the Hoenn region, and it has Pokemon from 8 different generations that are reworked with better movesets, new moves, abilities, and even a minor rebalancing to the type chart where Bug is now neutral against Fairy, Fairy is not very effective against Bug, Poison does neutral damage to Ghost, and Water is not very effective against Ice. There's a ton more, but you'll learn about that as we go through the game itself, and of course we can only use all the Pokemon that Ash has used among his entire journey through all the regions. And considering he didn't evolve like half of his Pokemon, that means we're stuck with a couple of really trash ones. For example, he never evolved his Squirtle, so we won't do that either. And even though he recently became the champion of all champions, that doesn't mean he'll do it again in this ROM hack. So let's go and find out. But first, a word to the sponsor of this video and our very good friend Red Magic. They've already sponsored the channel in the past, so you already know what it's about. Phones. But not just any old phones, because Red Magic makes the best ones. It's like you have your gaming computer right there in your pocket on the go. They've got a couple of insane designs for their 3 new phones of the Red Magic 9.0 Pro, which are the Snowfall, Sleet, and Cyclone, which can have up to 16 gigabytes of RAM and 512 gigabytes of memory to store all of your Pokemon pictures on that you want. Yes, even the weird ones. Personally, I love playing Pokemon Unite on my phone because it's just a game that I'm a little bit addicted to. Basically never have to worry about my phone overheating or getting too hot because it has such an advanced ICE 13 cooling system. And since the summer's coming up, I bet that high-speed centrifugal fan can keep me cold as well. The Samsung GN5 50 megapixels camera is also insane to take pictures of your favorite Pokemon plushies, for example. And it even has a game space so you can add in plugins and make your game experience even more comfortable. So if you're looking for a new phone or are interested in Red Magic at all, you can click the links in the description to join in on their 6th anniversary campaign by going to their official website or social media for more details about the anniversary celebration activities. I heard you might even have the chance to win one of their phones. And I want to leave off with a huge thank you to Red Magic for sponsoring this video, and let's get right back into Parallel Emerald. When you spawn in, there's a couple of things you can pick from, starting off with the difficulty, and considering we won't be using a lot of fully evolved Pokemon, I decided to go with the normal difficulty. I also turned on sandbox mode, which gives me maximum money, access to the PC anywhere, and I can heal my team after every single Pokemon battle without going to a center. I also turned on minimal grinding mode, so my Pokemon always have the max IVs and don't get any EVs after battle to make it a little bit easier to grind. And in pure Ash fashion, we are arriving late to our own move, which makes my mom fuming. But after helping around the house a little bit, she calls me downstairs to check out the TV because my long-lost father has been sighted somewhere in the region and we are tasked to find him and bring him back home so we can finally drink that milk. Because Ash Ketchum is also a very polite gentleman, we go and say hello to our neighbors and meet up with May, as we try to steal her Pokeball like we did with Misty's bike. This made her mad, so unlike in the Hoenn series, she won't be traveling with us and will act as a rival that will stand against me at every opportunity she has. But we have way more urgent matters to attend to, like saving the professor from getting his ass eaten by a raccoon. As our 3 starters, we can pick between Grookey, Mudkip, and Charmander, and since Ash only owned one of these, we'll be going with Charmander. Fortunately enough, we don't have to save it from Damien, who abandoned it in the original series. We torch the raccoon with Ember, go back to the lab, and get the task to search out May on Route 103. On our way there, we admired a little bit of the landscape and saw that even the starting town and Route 101 and 103 have all been changed around in terms of map layout. There's added patches of grass, mountains, and new Pokemon, so a lot to explore. Unfortunately, Ash Ketchum is poor and couldn't afford any Pokeballs, so we're just up against May's Mudkip right now. I learned Smog at level 7, which made this fight a lot easier than it should have been, as I was able to poison our little mudfish friend and move back to the lab to meet meet with the professor again. He somehow was so impressed with Ash's battling skills that he gave him a free Pokédex and balls to try and capture his first couple Pokemon, which Ash doesn't like doing. I mean, have you taken a look at his black and white team? It's utter trash. That's why the first Pokemon we capture is going to be of one of his best teams, Generation 3, and also potentially one of Ash's best birds, Tailo, which was even able to beat a shiny version of itself once it had evolved into Swellow. And speaking of early bird Pokemon, one of the first Pokemon he got in the Sinnoh region was Starly, so I grabbed one of those too, even though in its very first battle it was defeated by Paul. I then made my way over to the Pokemon Center and saw a couple of added additions here. There's a lady here that can change your nature, hidden power type, and even change one of your IVs to 0 if you're running Trick Room to put your speed to as low as possible. The guy next to her lets you relearn Pokemon moves if they've forgotten them, and there's also a special move tutor here which can give your Pokemon some very awesome moves at the start of the game to diversify what you can take on. These will be spread across the entire region, and they will be more useful the further you get into the game. To the right of Oldale Town, there is a newly added route, which looks very beautiful because normally there's nothing here. And on that route, there is a house with 2 old people in it. One of you will give you the opportunity to choose between 3 Park Balls, which let Pokemon that you capture with them gain their hidden ability, or an egg, which I picked because I'm Ash Ketchum and I always go for the worst option. The lady just gives you some advice on how to check IVs and EVs, which I definitely don't need because they're all maxed out anyway. On the next route, I ran into an Aipom, a Pokemon that Ash captured but later traded away with Dawn for Buizel, so I will allow myself to use it until we find a Buizel, then we have to box it forever. Luckily for me, Buizel is not in this game. Just like a lot of Ash's Pokemon actually, not even his main Pokemon, his starter, Pikachu, is in this game, which I guess is actually good because now he might be able to finally have a good ace Pokemon. On the other hand, is it really an Ash playthrough without Pikachu? That's for you to decide in the comments below. But that's not important because we just hatched a Cubone, a Pokemon Ash never had. So even though this little man might already be lonely with the skull of his mother, he's now going to have to lead an even lonelier life in my box. I also ran into a Phanpy, which is a Pokemon Ash managed to raise from an egg all the way up to a Donphan, and with its sturdy ability and insane attack, I know this thing will carry us to many victories. We do some berry picking and go to the newly revamped Route 102 to eventually reach Petalburg City, where we help Wally capture a weird-looking Ralt. Although it is pretty cool to finally see him with a different Pokemon. Unfortunately, in the anime, Wally never showed up, so these two never met. We also get access to rare candies in Petalburg, which you can buy from the shop, and with the unlimited money that we got from the sandbox, we basically don't have to worry about grinding all that much. Although all your Pokemon in your party must follow your highest level Pokemon in terms of levels, so you'll always have to grind up one Pokemon if you want to level up the rest of your team, which I think is a very nice change of pace. On Route 104, we found Fletchling, one of the Pokemon that took on the legendary bird Moltres once it had evolved into a Talonflame. With it, we happily traveled through Petalburg Woods, where we ended up saving someone from Team Aqua with our flying types. After getting lost a couple of times and running into a couple of trees head first, we finally made our way out of the woods and found this weird looking moss stone, so I kept talking to it, hoping that something would happen, and the game actually mocked me for doing so, saying that the rock was sticky and smelly, and why would anybody even be talking to a rock? And my answer to that would basically be that I'm going insane, because Charmander just evolved into Charmeleon and he doesn't want to listen to any of my commands anymore. On the other hand, Starly also evolved into Staravia, which will give us a huge power increase, because we just arrived in Rustboro City, which means it's time to take on the first gym, which is not Rock Sand and a Rock types anymore. This time you first have to complete a maze and then face Greta with her Dark type team. Leading off with an Impidimp, which she quickly switches out after seeing my Charmeleon for Houndour. I bring in Phanpy and start shaking the ground with Bulldoze until the puppy falls. Impidimp then got clawed on by Charmeleon, while Aipom swatted a crow out of the air with its big hand tail. In true fashion, I then lost 5 of my 6 team members to the last Pokemon Pawniard to make this battle a lot harder than it should have been. In the end, we were able to whittle down the Steel type as Tailo delivered the final blow with Wing Attack, and in the process, gaining the Dusk Badge. After that, we save a Mega Corporation from an attack of Team Aqua, get the number of the most most powerful man in the region, and went to check out Route 115 to see if there was anything new there. And yes, there was. A new trainer named Midori who will act as my second rival, which is great because Ash often has more than one rival in each series. She had 3 starters that started with the letter T, namely Totodile, Tepig, and Turtwig. So after turning all of them into iced tea, and learned that Midori thinks that we're an absolute dork, and actually can't believe that she lost against us. And someday she'll get her revenge with a rematch. But before that, we are trying to leave town before May stops me. She also wants a piece of this, so let's show her how strong we've already become. She started off by throwing literal trash at me. I didn't appreciate that, so my monkey threw it back. Pawniard got stomped into the ground, and even though I didn't want to, I also had to take down her Marshtomp with Wobwob's wing attacks. Fletchling was admired with Staravia's strength, so it decided to evolve into a Fletchinder straight after the battle, as we flew to Mr. Briny's house together to step on his boat, which ended up crashing in the middle of the ocean as we had to swim to Dewford Town. Over there, an old man gave me an old rod, which we used to fish up our next Pokemon, Corphish. A Pokemon that, despite of its size, can really pack a punch, as he has shown off plenty of times by using his powerful crab hammer in the anime. We made a quick stop at Granite Cave to say hello to our good old friend Steven Stone, who, according to the Ruby and Sapphire series, isn't even the champion, but he did help us out of a tight spot with his trusty Aron. And considering that he's still one of the most powerful trainers around, we gained some knowledge and paraded to the next gym, only to find ourselves stuck in an infinite loop of entering tree houses and coming back out into the same spots as we did before. I thought this was going to be the end of me, stranded in a treehouse hell, until I heard the voice of the gym leader calling to me, saying which way to go, as I ended up at Brandon's feet, who was ready to attack me with his grass-type Pokemon, which is a great matchup for our boy Ash here, as his entire team is stacked with fire and flying type Pokemon, as we can easily Dragon Rage away his little leap, wing attack, that pesky Breloom with Staravia after it took down Taylor with Mach Punch, and in true character we burned down the rest of the gym with Charmeleon's Incinerate, which might mean we were a criminal across the entire Hoenn region, but it was worth it, because we finally have the Palm Badge. While exploring the rest of the island, we ran into a familiar face. It's the old gym leader Brawly, and he actually turned out to be retired now, because he just wants to chill and hit some waves and not battle Pokemon all the time anymore. But maybe one day he'll come out of his retirement and give us a proper battle that we earned ourselves. Before that though, it's time for us to swim to Slateport, because that boat is still broken. We terrorize some children at the beach until my Tailo finally gains enough strength to evolve into Swellow, but also Fanfi, who turns into the rolling machine, Donphan. We then head towards the local market, where we have a nice time eating all the food we can get, but we also end up buying out the entire TM shop, as there were a couple of useful ones right in there. We see Midori fighting in Sailor, but unfortunately we can't really mess with the battle too much, so we head to the museum instead, where Team Aqua is already raiding it. Once we defeat the two grunts, however, we meet up with their boss, Archie, who tries to make me believe in the power of the sea, but to be completely honest, I'm Team Magma all the way. So we shoo him away and deliver the Devon goods to the scientist. This brings our journey to Route 110, where we meet Goomy, which will eventually evolve into one of Ash's most overpowered Pokemon, Goodra. So let's hope this cute and huggable little slime monster will do the same for us. We head back to Midori, who is now done beating up the sailor she was fighting earlier. As a reward, she got a free trip to Froster Island, a totally new place that is not in the regular Hoenn region, so with our adventurous spirit, we obviously want to go with her and check it out. But there's one condition: once we get there, we have to battle her. I see that as a win-win situation, so let's sail the seas. Once arriving, she immediately throws out her Donphan, and we do the same, only ours is better and we have Rapid Spin. So we zoom past it like it's nothing, and she sends out her Watchog straight after. For some reason, this thing knows Ice Fang, as it destroys my Staravia by swatting it out of the air. However, Swellow swoops in and takes it down. Torracat is the next Pokemon. And what do we do against that? Well, we dig a hole and spin it rapidly. And the last one, Dewpider, gets gulped up by Swellow as a little snack. And once defeated, Midori realizes she has a lot of training to do before she can beat us, giving Ash a feeling of euphoria, but that gets knocked out of the air immediately, as Winona doesn't even accept our challenge because we're too weak. So as a result of that, we run away and end up in Froster Cave, where we get lost. There isn't too much this cave has to offer me right now, as you need strength to get through it. So we'll have to return here later, but not after capturing a Rock'n'Rolla. Because yes, Ash had a Boldore in the Unova region. I didn't remember him either. But hey, maybe this pile of rocks will be useful in some shape, way, or form. Team Rocket then came along and trapped me in a trick house full with riddles I had to solve in order to get through it with my life still intact. As my reward for that, I ended up getting a Sliggoo, and after telling May all of this, she was so shocked she decided to just battle me to try and release some stress. Because as a previous Pokemon champion, Ash must be under a lot of it. We started the battle with, I know, Crawdaunt against Frosmoth. Ash doesn't have a Crawdaunt. I accidentally evolved it, but it didn't get a single kill in this battle and just died straight up to Frosmoth. So from now on, we'll just not be using Corphish anymore, I guess. Instead, Swellow then takes out Frosmoth, Marshtomp, and does a buttload of damage against Go-Goat with Brave Bird. Unfortunately, the recoil damage does rack up and my Swellow goes down. Stravia then finishes it off with Quick Attack and uses Return 2 times on her trash to send her straight to the dump. Following this round led me to Mauville City, where there was a giant big house that was full of move tutors that, you know, had useful moves. That's basically it. We do what Ash Ketchum does best, steal bicycles and try to check out the local casino, but we can't enter because we don't have a coin case. Guess we'll have to search for that later. First, let's beat Wally. It's a really nice change of pace to see him not only have a Ralts here, he actually has a fully fledged team, starting off with a Fletchinder, which we end up killing with a Brave Bird and a Quick Attack from Swellow while getting burned by Will-O-Wisp. Unfortunately, my Charmeleon ends up going up against his Gallade, which just one-shots me with Sky Uppercut. Staraptor proceeds to kill it with Aerial Ace as well as Kirlia, then Pawniard with Close Combat, and finally Roserade with Aerial Ace once more. I don't think Ash's Staraptor ever put this much work in, but ours is definitely an ace in the hole. Wally then goes on to try and achieve greater heights, and I of course give him my blessing, and then evolve my Charmeleon into potentially one of the strongest Pokemon Ash has, Charizard, but also one of the weakest, Boldore. We saw someone gooning at the side of the road and decided to check up on him because that's behavior we don't tolerate here. And what's even worse is the gym puzzle in Watson's gym. I think it got electrocuted even more than Team Rocket did in the entire series. After a lot of trial and error, I eventually found the right pattern and reached the old man for our battle. And he definitely wasn't an easy opponent, as this is a double battle, making it double as hard for me to strategize. They start off with Emolga and Toxtricity and immediately set up the electric terrain with Emolga's ability. I proceed to use Fake Out, Quick Attack, and Double Hit to take both of these Pokemon out, which ends up swapping in Alolan Electrode and Luxray, who set up a Reflect. I eventually swap out Aipom for Sliggoo, but these two were devastating, as they just kept on tanking hits because of the Reflect, and were able to take down 3 out of my 6 Pokemon with their Grass and Electric type moves, until Charizard could clean them up with a Burning Jealousy. His last Pokemon was a Probopass, and while it was able to take down my Dragon, a Burning Jealousy and 2 more Water Pulses from Sliggoo made its big nose fall off, giving me the Dynamo badge, but straight after we get kidnapped by Team Rocket and put into the trick house once again. Only this time it was filled with trap holes and trainers with starter Pokemon I had to defeat. But once I got through those obstacles, my reward was absolutely worth it, a coin case. This allows me to go back to the casino and get every single starter Pokemon Ash Ketchum has owned. These consist of Torterra, which might be one of Ash's worst starters, Snivy, who unfortunately never evolved, just like Rowlet because he just keeps eating Everstones for breakfast. We also grabbed this Kulava, who loves using Flame Wheels, potentially his strongest Pokemon ever, Infernape. I mean, who doesn't remember the fight against Paul and his Electivire where he went absolutely crazy? Pignite was a Pokemon I totally forgot he had, but his Litten, however, became so strong as a Torracat that it was able to take down an Incineroar and become an Incineroar itself. A VGC staple in Pokemon tournaments, and definitely someone I'm going to rely on a lot. It doesn't end there, however, because we have 3 Pokemon that will never evolve. Squirtle, who's now a firefighter, Totodile, who just loves biting stuff and is just the most precious thing ever, and then Oshawott. The last water type here is going to be Froakie, who is going to turn into Ash Greninja eventually. actually, who unfortunately choked in the final of his Kalos tournament, but I bet he's going to want redemption after that. Bulbasaur and Bayleef were also Pokemon he used a lot, but are probably not going to be as useful to me. But you know who is? The man that took down Tobias's Darkrai, Sceptile. A fast powerhouse that will for sure have a lot of victims lying before him. And finally, Galarian Farfetch'd, who eventually turned into Sirfetch'd, which was one of the last Pokemon Ash had on his journey. Oh, and I guess Fletchinder also evolved into Talonflame, which is just not going to be as good as our other fire-flying type, Charizard. I put $10,000 into a machine and got nothing, and that's gambling summed up for you. On our way to the Ashy route, I ran into one of the professor's aides who gave me some ability patches and useful TMs. Once you defeat a decently hard double battle next to Fall Arbor Town, you get access to the Wide Lens and Zoom Lens, which are accuracy boosting items, but considering that we have plot armor by our side, I don't really think we're going to need these. Route 114 looks nothing like you're used to, but there is a battle here with Midori, who's waiting for Flannery so she can challenge her. I guess she's also retired because otherwise, why wouldn't you just go and challenge her at her gym? She's also surprised to see that we already have our third badge, so throws out her heat more and sets up a sunny day. I send out my Greninja and kill it with 2 Scalds, even though the sun is kind of working against me. Her Hisuian Lilligant finishes me off with a close combat, and while I go into Talonflame to try and finish it off with acrobatics, she had already predicted this and swapped out into Magcargo. I try to take it out with Infernape's close combat, but then she swaps out into a Alola Marowak, cancelling it out. This bonehead then proceeds to finish off my Incineroar and Staraptor while sustaining a lot of damage so Talonflame can come in and take it out. Infernape and Magcargo then go blow for blow, but in the end they both fall at the same time, and so in the end my Talonflame finally gets the kill on Hisuian Lilligant, and Torterra finishes off the final Pokemon Flygon with Seed Bomb. This was way too close for comfort, but somehow we still came out on top. Team Aqua and Magma fight for a meteorite, so we go to a volcano and almost fall in. Luckily, Talonflame swoops us up at the last moment and places us in front of the Team Magma boss, Maxie. He wants to summon Groudon and lay waste to the entire Hoenn region, and even though there is too much water here, I still can't let him do that. His first 2 Pokemon were Camerupt and Magmortar, who got scalded by Greninja, but Magmortar somehow survived and countered back with Focus Blast to blast away my Frog. He started out playing me by sending in Hisuian type Flosion to counter out my Infernape's Drain Punch, and also going into his Rotom Heat to take care of my Talonflame. In the end, 3 of my Pokemon fell to Maxie's superior strategies until I brought in Infernape, who decided to cook the rest of his team as most of them had already taken a lot of damage. As a reward for defeating Maxie, he promises to leave the volcano alone for now, and a super cool evolution then occurs as my Sliggoo finally turns into Goodra. After scaling down the volcano, we reach Lava Ridge Town and pick up an egg there from an old woman, but also see a man in the sand getting pinched by Krabbies. We made our way to the next gym and saw that it was another puzzle that needed to be completed in under 30 seconds. So we put on our running shoes and started racing against the clock. In the end, I didn't think I was going to make it, but it was just under 30 seconds with 29.61. This allowed me to challenge Flannery's replacement, Annabelle, to see what she had in store. She doesn't really specialize in one typing. No, this is basically an inverse battle, so if your move is normally super effective, it's now going to be not very effective, and the other way around. All of this made Ash Ketchum's brain a little bit too fried, which made this battle a lot harder than it should have been. She started off with Frozlass, so I went with U-turn on Greninja, but she swapped in type Null so that U-turn wouldn't be super effective against Frozlass. I then brought in Jello with the U-turn and Acid Sprayed the incoming Ursaluna, who also had Flame Orb. Because of its Guts ability, it was able to one-shot me with a return, and I then brought in Torterra to go for Earthquake, which didn't even kill, and I got killed by an Earthquake of his own. I finally killed it with Infernape's Flaring Rush, and while Frozlass came in and went for Ice Beam, I decided to swap in for Greninja for whatever reason. I U-turned out to the Staraptor and killed it with Quick Attack, but Jinx put a stop in my sweeping tracks by killing me with Hidden Power. Infernape's close combat was enough to KO here. Unfortunately, type Null was able to survive the turn after and kill me. Her Pinsir then took down my Greninja, while Incineroar was able to finish off the last 2 Pokemon with Fake Out and Darkest Lariat, making this another incredibly close fight like you see a lot in the anime with Ash. I then put on some goggles and Desert Cloth and decided to head into the Mirage Tower to pick pick up a fossil. And if you know Ash's Pokemon, you already know he only has one fossil Pokemon, and that's Dracovish, a Pokemon that loves chewing on his head. And for some reason, we ended up getting this bad boy in an X, so we started biking up and down until it hatched into this prehistoric dinosaur fish. The egg we got from the old lady also ended up hatching into a Riolu, which is insane because Lucario is the only Mega Pokemon Ash ever used, and he definitely was the GOAT in the fight against Cynthia. We head back to Petalburg City to try and take on the 5th gym leader, which is normally led by my father. Unfortunately, we're not allowed in the gym until we unlock the secret of Mega Evolution, and in order to do that, we have to run through the deepest parts of Froster Cave. So we head back over there without the HM for strength. Luckily, Brawly is in this cave as well and says that he is willing to give me that HM if we manage to beat him in a battle. So he tells me to come to his vacation home and challenge him there for his very first battle outside of his retirement. The battle itself was one of the easiest ones yet, as Staraptor could just take down Primeape and Mega Heracross with Brave Birds, and Infernape turned on Beast Mode to take down Decidueye, Electivire, and Crabominable. We now have the superhuman strength to move boulders, so we head back to Froster Cave and pick up all the Mega Stones that are just lying there in these special blue crystals. Besides that, this cave is incredibly hard to traverse. There is a million strength puzzles for you to complete, and once you manage to get through the first floor, you have to go to the second, where you have to do ice puzzles combined with strength puzzles. Personally, I think Ash would have died in this cave because it was incredibly tedious to get through, and then once you get through the first part of the ice puzzles, you run into the legendary trainer Red. He's already been to the bottom of the cave to unlock the secret of Mega Evolution, and he wants to test it out, but he only has 3 Pokemon left, but even with those 3, he thinks he can still beat me. And if I was Season 1 Ash, that would definitely be right. But we've transcended at this point and became a Pokemon God. So let's show Red how it's done, by taking down his Lapras with Infernape, and the other 2, Espeon and Arcanine, with Greninja's Dark Pulse and Hydro Pump. He says he underestimated me and that this won't happen the next time we meet. We part ways, do our last couple of ice puzzles, and end up at the heart of the cave. Here we meet Spencer, the oldest living native of Froster Island, and he spends most of his days down here guarding the secret of Mega Evolution. And he says that we're probably here to get a free Mega Ring, and that's not what we're going to get. First, we have to defeat him in a battle to show him that we're worthy. This is an incredibly hard double battle where he runs an Ice-type team that sets up the Hail, plays around it a lot with moves like Aurora Veil and abilities like Slush Rush. I don't really care about that though, because I fake out and Victory Dance with my Incineroar and Infernape of the first turn, then take out the Ninetales with a Flaring Rush so he doesn't get the chance to set up the Aurora Veil. I also do insane damage on Arctozolt with my Flaring Rush, and because of Intimidate, its Stomping Tantrum barely does anything to me. Mega Abomasnow comes in, and this man has an ability that basically inverts all of the super effective moves. So you need to hit it with not very effective attacks if you want to do major damage, making Abomasnow an actual good Pokemon, but not good enough to tank a hit from Hydro Pump, as we also proceed to take out the incoming Lucario with Drain Punch. The last Pokemon is Mamoswine, which we just Drain Punch one more time, and boom, bang, bing, the Mega Stone is ours. We part ways with Spencer after listening to some of his tales of his early days, and travel back to the 5th gym, only to find out our dad's not here because he's been replaced with Noland. He's still ripping the normal types though, so we should be having an easy time here. And it starts off great as my Infernape sets up a Victory Dance and takes down 2 Pokemon, Ursaring and Megalopunny with Drain Punch. I almost take down a Beware with close combat, but get hit with a nasty Zen Headbutt which leaves me with 11 HP. I then finish it off with Drain Punch, and when Wordeer comes in, I'm like, okay, let me hit a close combat, but it turns out it's not affected by it. So I knew what that meant, Hisuian Zoroark. So Incineroar put it in a headlock and slammed it into the ground. His last Pokemon was an actual Wordeer who, after surviving a Darkest Lariat, took down Incineroar, and that meant that Pignite could finally pick up his first and only kill of the run with Flaring Rush. We acquired the Balance Badge, but also get kidnapped by Wally's dad, who wants to hand me the HM for Surf. A little later on, we run into Steven again, who tells me where he can pick some very useful citrus berries, and then proceeds to lead me to a new town named Crestwood. There's not much to do here here except for the choice trials, which will unlock after 6th, 7th, and 8th gym badges, and these will allow you to unlock the choice band, choice scarf, and choice specs. But I decided to leave this place pretty quickly because I need to get my 6th gym badge first, and so I did some cool tricks with my bike, impressed some ladies, catching arguably Ash's best Johto Pokemon, Heracross, and reached Fortree City to challenge the 6th gym leader, Lucy. Poison types are her game, but that's nothing we can't handle. We start off with Donphan, but her Overqwil intimidates me, so I swap out into Lucario to cancel out the poison type attack and set up a Swords Dance. She decides to taunt me and hit me with a liquidation before I take it out with a Bone Rush, and the incoming Naganadel puts me to flames and gets a beast boost after taking out my Hound. Goodra calls some meteors down from the sky to destroy the alien, and Sneasler punches me in the face with its big claws. Staraptor's Brave Bird is enough to KO, but Gengar's Focus Blast counters me out, and even though this thing is Mega Evolved, it still stands no chance against Donphan's Sturdy and Earthquake combo. We get one more Ice Shard off on the incoming Drapion, and then swap out into Torterra once we're dead. We use Earthquake on it, and end the final Sussy Mushrooms days with Flare Blitz from Infernape. Straight after, we go and get our Choice Band by defeating Sydney in 2 back-to-back battles, which turned out to be a lot easier than I thought. We turn the invisible visible with a Devon Scope and go through the lush jungle that is Route 120, which has been upgraded with a ton of new trees that make it feel more alive. Once we reached Lily Cove, we found a handsome Zigzagoon who was gagooing. I then went to get my block case to get straight into the Safari Zone, but first we have a little talk with Midori, who tried to enter and even stole some of their Safari balls. Unfortunately, she doesn't think she's ready to fight me yet, because she has a lot of things she needs to work on, so once we both have 8 badges, we'll have a battle again. For now, let's head into the Safari Zone and capture the one Pokemon we need from here, and that's Munchlax. And even though Ash never had a Munchlax, he does have an amazing Snorlax that has 6 moves it can use in battle. Unfortunately, that's not going to be the case for us. We ended up beating May in an incredibly easy double battle, even though she had the best Pokemon on her team, Mega Swampert, and we then headed over to Mount Pyre to grab a Haunter, which we eventually evolve into Gengar, who was a prankster and an absolute powerhouse in the Journey series. On top of Mount Pyre, we grab Torkoal, who loves drowning himself, and as always, Team Aqua is here to steal the blue orb. Once they leave, the Guardians of the Orb want to battle me in exchange for a Magma Emblem, and if we manage to beat them, they will know that we're strong enough to take down those bad guys. Her first Pokemon Claydol is an easy takedown with Hydro Pump and Water Shuriken from Greninja. Her Mega Ampharos gets Earthquake by Donphan. Scyther is able to take down 2 of my Pokemon with dual Wing Beats and even tank a Brave Bird from Staraptor with his Focus Sash until Goodra comes in and Acid Sprays it dead. Her last Pokemon, Chestnut, is getting Draco Meteored and straight after Sludge Wave by Greninja in order to win me the Magma Emblem. So we hike back to Mount Chimney and enter the hideout. Not all that much has changed here, just the layout and some puzzles that you have to complete. And after you reach Maxie, you don't only get to fight his regular team, no, the moment he summons Groudon, you have to fight that beast yourself. Groudon showed up in the anime a couple of times, but the most impressive thing that Ash has ever done is take down that virus Groudon in the Jirachi movie. So let's do the same to this one. The only thing I had to do was use Destiny Bond on Gengar, and the big beast was down. Onto Maxie himself. Permanent Sun is up in this battle, which makes it a little harder, but Staraptor can immediately get a kill with Brave Bird on Cherim. I then used 3 Ice Shards on the incoming Aerodactyl with Donphan to kill that as well, but his Mega Charizard X kills me with a single Flare Blitz. Goodra can wipe it out of this volcano with a Draco Meteor though, and Lucario finishes off the last 2 Pokemon Typhlosion and Trevenant with Extreme Speed and Meteor Mash. With the volcano saved, we head out to do an interview with my biggest fans and tell them how good Pokemon Parallel Emerald really is. Once that's done, we head back to Lily Cove City, do the Team Aqua hideout, and see that the puzzles here have become a lot harder. The teleportation to Archie's room has been totally revamped to make you claw your eyes out, but the reward of a Master Ball is always worth it. Once we take down his admin Matt, who is stalling for time so they can leave with the submarine, we end up being too late, which leads us to Moss Deep City, which has been enlarged by quite a bit. A ton of new houses have been implemented, and in one of these houses we see a very familiar face. It's our long-lost dad. He knows we've been wondering where he's been since he wasn't our opponent in the 5th Gym Challenge. And well, as it turns out, the Pokemon League have recruited him to become a new Elite Four member because he seemed to have a lot of potential potential as a good trainer. So they temporarily located him here to this house in Moss Deep City without notifying me or my mom, which is a little bit of a dickhead move, but to be honest with you, I can't wait to smash him at the Elite Four once we get there. It's still kind of weird to think that Mr. Mime is actually Ash's real dad in the Pokemon anime. Inside of Shoal Cave, we grab 2 more team members for Ash, and that's a Krokorok, which evolves into Krookodile, one of Ash's coolest Pokemon with his signature sunglasses, but also a Noibat, which turns into Noivern, a Pokemon that also hatched from an egg and really sees Ash as a dad. So we'll be treating him that way by probably not using him all that much. But now it's time to get totally puzzled because we have to take on Tate and Liza, and before that, there's a lot of teleporting and shifting statues around in the right positions before you can get to them. But once you get through those, you're greeted with the hardest double battle in the game. You see, they have Permanent Trick Room and Wonder Room as well as a Psychic Surge Up, and they start off with Oranguru and Hatterene, and you basically just want to keep that ape alive as long as possible because it can't really do all that much to you. So I start off by protecting with Goodra and taking down the Hatterene with Brave Bird from Staraptor. Mega Slowbro hits the field and I go for Protect again and swap in Krookodile to cancel out any Psychic type moves and then proceed to take out the Slowbro with Fall Plays. For Alola Marowak, I bring in Incineroar and take that out with Fall Plays too, but then Scrafty comes in who takes out Incineroar, but luckily I can bring in Staraptor and use Brave Bird to take it out. Galarian Slowking comes out and I just start spamming Earthquake with Krookodile, taking down all of my own team members but also the final 2 Pokemon of them to win myself the battle. We head to the Moss Deep Space Center before Team Magma can blow that up, and we basically help our friend Steven by taking out both Tabitha and Maxie with Krookodile's Earthquakes. As a thank you, we get the Dive HM, which lets us go underwater, but just before we drown, we end up finding the submarine that Team Aqua stole, which leads to this underground cave system, which just like every other nook and cranny of this game is filled with strength puzzles. Once you complete most of them though, you get rewarded with the Psychic TM and the presence of the Sea God Kyogre. Archie has gone absolutely insane at this point and just wants to flood the entire Earth. Fortunately for us, he doesn't wake up Kyogre just yet and battles us first. He has a sweet rain team starting off with Ludicolo, who crashes with my Staraptor, taking both of them down in the same turn. Beartic somehow outspeeds my Lucario and kills it, and also do some decent damage against my Heracross, but close combat is the end of the Polar Bear. Mega Sharpedo then launches himself into my Beetle, and I have to bring out my Lizard to take out the last 3 remaining Pokemon. That's when he uses the Blue Orb to wake up Kyogre. I send out my Krookodile and hit an Earthquake, but get taken out immediately. I send in Sceptile once again, and just like he took down that Darkrai, he takes on another legendary with Leaf Storm, winning me the battle as Kyogre flees the cave. Now the 2 Wither Titans are running free among the region, which causes for an emergency champion meeting with Steven, who tells me we need to go to Subtupolis City to try and save the day. But first we make a quick stop at Mirage Island. Fortunately, except for the leper berries, there is not really anything special here, so we make our way over to Pacifidlog Town just to see that the entire water puzzle thing for the Reggies is not there anymore. Red's also here, but he doesn't really want to fight right now, which means it's time for us to see the big boys clash. This always reminds me of the episode where Groudon and Kyogre are actually fighting and Pikachu somehow absorbs the blue orb and turns into this crazy powerful being. Unfortunately for us, our little rodent friend isn't here to save the day this time, so we have to confront Wallace and head to the Sky Pillar with him. Inside, we grab 2 more team members, Scraggy and Gligar, and after waking up the green snake, we head back to capture 2 more Pokemon. Those are Snorunt with the Old Rod. Don't know why he's underwater, but I guess I'll take it, even though Glalie was one of Ash's worst Pokemon. But then we go on to one of his better ones, Hawlucha, who even ended up recording some stuff with a shiny version of himself. As that was done and dusted, there was some shouting and all the legendary Pokemon went back to their original habitat. Wallace and Steven thank me for saving the region and even give me the HM for Waterfall as a reward, but unfortunately we won't be able to use that until we beat this next gym. More blatantly hard cracked ice puzzles out of the way, we eventually reach the former Elite Four member, now turned 8 gym leader, Glacia. She leads off with a moth that is frosted, so I lead off with Infernape and use Stealth Rocks on the incoming Walrein. I then bring in Staraptor, who gets hit with a Scald and luckily doesn't get burned, which means I can kill with a critical hit close combat straight after. Sceptile blows away Mamoswine with a Leaf Storm and Charizard Inferno's Weavile. He also gets off a Hurricane on Primarina before biting the dust. That's when Sceptile comes in, uses Giga Drain, and makes sure the mermaid will never sing anymore. Heracross manages to get another kill, but an Ice Shard from Abomasnow manages to finish me off, so Sceptile comes in, uses Leaf Storm, and because that's now super effective, Glacia is defeated and we get our 8th gym badge. We make it to Victory Road and meet the creator of this game, Joggle, who apologizes for putting so many puzzles in the game and says that I have a ton of battles ahead of me. And he wasn't wrong, because Victory Road itself was filled with puzzles and trainers that had cranked up teams that nearly made me lose my sanity. But with Ash's perfect team, we somehow managed to get through it and make it to the Pokemon League itself. Here we meet up with Midori, who shows me around a little bit because there is a couple of facilities here that are normally not in Pokemon centers, like some incredibly useful item shops, but that's not really why she's here. She says that she's improved a lot and is ready to take me on in one final battle. And it doesn't start off great because she predicts most of my moves and swaps in Pokemon that negate most of my moves and takes out my Lucario and Staraptor with ease. I managed to get some damage off on her Togekiss though, so Donphan could just come in and Ice Shard it, while Sceptile could then deal with Clawitzer and Mega Garchomp by using Giga Drain and Dragon Pulse. The fight here is basically over as she brings in Gogoat, one of the most useless Pokemon ever, and my Heracross goes for Mega Horn, killing it. Alolan Marowak doesn't stand a chance against the Night Slash, and Probopass gets bricked in the nose. And so with Midori defeated, we only have one challenge standing in our way, the Elite Four and Champion. But in order to prepare for it, we had to craft our perfect team, so we went to pick up a Meltan in the newly added Moss Deep City Gift Center and evolve him into Melmetal, which Ashes also did in the Alola League. I also checked out the move tutor and gave everybody the best moveset I thought that they would need, and went in with a team of Lucario, Sceptile, Hawlucha, Donphan, Melmetal, and Infernape. Our first opponent here is going to be Tucker, who specializes in the Fairy type. So I lead off with Lucario and go for Swords Dance on the Grimmsnarl, but he swaps out into Espeon, which takes a Meteor Mash not too well and dies. Mega Mawile finishes me off with Sucker Punch, and as I try to take it out with Earthquake from Donphan, he swaps in Togekiss. I hit it with an Ice Shard and faint. Then Melmetal comes in, gets paralyzed, and flinched 5 times in a row, leaving me with only 5 HP before taking out Togekiss with double Iron Bash. Talk about bad luck, because otherwise this guy could have swept the rest of the team, but now the Life Orb damage takes me out, and Infernape cleans up Mega Mawile and Galarian Weezing with Flare Blitz before getting taken out by Grimmsnarl. Sceptile then uses Leaf Storm and Giga Drain to end off the fight so we can move on to Phoebe. This turns out to be a double battle against Chandelure and Aegislash, and so we use Stealth Rock and Sky Attack to take out the Chandelure, but Aegislash ends up taking out my Elephant. They bring in Mimikyu, and once my Hawlucha faints, Infernape and Lucario can clean up. And with cleaning up, I do mean killing the rest of the team with most of Infernape's Flare Blitzes. Even Mega Banette stood no chance. Onto Glacia's replacement, Juan, with his Rain team. Luckily, I gave my Infernape Volt Tackle, which allowed it to just one-shot Pelipper, just to be taken out by Luminion's Moonblast the turn after. Then I thought Sceptile is going to sweep while he takes down Luminion with Giga Drain, but Golisopod put an end to it quickly with First Impression. The next turn, I used Thunder Punch with Melmetal to activate its ability, which swaps it out for Mega Swampert, who is able to take down Hawlucha after getting hit with a critical hit high jump kick, but this puts it into range for Lucario to take it out with extreme speed. Heliolisk then thunders me, but it isn't enough to kill, so we use Close Combat to bring out Toxapex. I can't really do anything against his bunker, so I sacrifice my Lucario, bring in Donphan, and use Earthquake. We use it once again on Golisopod to win the battle and move on to the next room to finally meet eye to eye with my dad. I wasn't planning on going easy on him in the first place, so let's show him why he shouldn't have left us. He starts out with a Galvantula who has a Focus Sash and sets up the Sticky Whip and Light Screen. Luckily for me, my Infernape can also kill it with 2 Flare Blitzes, but this does mean the rest of my team is going to be crippled. I do some insane damage on his Ace Slacking 2 before getting taken out by Return. I swap in Lucario and set up a Swords Dance on the Truants and take it out with extreme speed, then slap Volcarona with another one of those before getting taken out by Fiery Dance. Hawlucha smashed it out of the sky with a high jump kick, Sceptile Leaf Storm the incoming giant jellyfish, Donphan Earthquake the Mega Lucario, which is kind of like a father-son bonding moment because Lucario is supposed to be my ace too. His last Pokemon ended up being an Ursaluna, so a Leaf Storm from Sceptile cleaned up nicely. Father is proud that his own flesh and blood was able to beat him, but I'm just glad I don't have to see his face again and can move on to the champion battle with Steven. All the meeting meetings we had with him throughout the region and helping him out with so many different things led up to this moment. So let's do what we do best, win. I lead off with Infernape on Celesteela and set up a couple of victory dances and kill it with Flare Blitz in the end. Mega Metagross shares the same fate, but my Infernape ends up biting the dust because of his own recoil damage. Hawlucha can then deal with Crocodile by using High Jump Kick, but unfortunately I miss one on the next Pokemon Heatran, which allows it to take me out with Magma Storm. I bring in Donphan, and at the right moment my Quick Claw activates, which means we can take it out with a single Earthquake, but Tapu Bulu is here to put a stop to my Elephant's rampage. Because this thing is part Fairy type, I bring in Lucario and go for Meteor Mash, but it isn't enough and we once again get KO'd. So I bring in the Pokemon that's always amazing in clutch times, Sceptile, use Giga Drain to take this thing out, and the final Pokemon Gyarados too. And you already know what that means because Ash has become champion once again. Technically for the 4th time, first in the Orange Islands, then Alola, then the Master League, and now this. I have to say that it was a ton of fun to play through Parallel Emerald with his theme team, and this game truly felt like one of the most refreshing runs I've had in a while just because of the game that has been changed so much from regular Hoenn. Most of the battles were also fun and not too hard, even though I do think that I probably could have beaten hard mode without any problems too. If I'd have to give Pokemon Parallel Emerald a number, I would give it an 8.5 out of 10. Definitely recommend checking it out yourself if you're into Pokemon Emerald ROM hacks and want to experience Hoenn in a totally different way. With that out of the way, don't forget to leave a like, subscribe, and share this video with your friends. And as always, I want to thank my membership and Patreon supporters for supporting the channel. If you want to do so yourself, you can click the links in the description. It's always appreciated, but not needed. I've been Zwigo, and I'll see you all in the next one.